Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. It's Bear here. And I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, A Box with No Lid. A channel I'm creating not just to bring the awareness around the lived reality, trauma, and complex trauma creates, but I want to bring what I've learned, and I want a record of what I've learned over my own personal experiences and the many, many years of being a practitioner and an advocate in many areas around trauma. Now, this is the next video in the adoption series, and this one hits a little hard, and it is very personal for me, but it's very personal for a lot of adoptees that I know and a lot of those that have gone through child trauma and child removal. And I'll forewarn that this following statement is confronting, but it is also true. One of the biggest challenges in decades of advocacy is trying to get across to systems and government and bureaucracy and organizations the understanding of what fundamentally changes when an infant or a young child is harmed. In utero, in the womb, preverbal, very early childhood. And there's one fundamental switch, for want of a better analogy, that gets changed. And the ripple effects of that are the basis of so much duplication of harm within our societies, but also a burden that is carried and kept at the core by so many, and all we try to do is not harm others with it. Now, the statement is the cruel legacy of in utero, preverbal, and early childhood trauma is we do not get to participate in love. We get to give love. We get to sometimes receive it. But we never get to truly participate in it. We never feel that part of or that belonging. And that comes down to the direct result of what happened to us at such a critical developmental stage. This is developmental trauma. And it is not that it's not healable, it is just very, very challenging too. And I've seen a few get through this. The majority find ways of coping and living with it. And that is, as I said, participating with love. If you really look at that honestly, participating is being part of, being an equal party with everyone around. There is no convincing, there is no evidence, there is no proof. And this participating in love, because of how we disrupt and how so many infants and young children are harmed now. So many mothers are in an insecure state, under threat from various different forms during pregnancy, or create threat through consumption of alcohol and so forth, that crosses the placenta. This is so prevalent in our society today. And I want to take all of that, but bring it down to from an adoption perspective, because it allows it to be explained. As I said in several videos, for the study and understanding of early childhood and preverbal trauma, and understanding its legacy and its effects and its implications, working with adoptees and those that have been removed and placed in foster care, we are the ones that understand it. We are the ones that know it. And many of us are willing to participate in the research of it to be able to create and expand the knowledge base around it. But when you have this harm that crosses the placenta, when you have removal trauma at birth or soon after, either for placement or for medical, there's a switch that either doesn't get developed because there is no connection to the biological mother, or it gets turned off through harm. I firmly believe that every infant born that is not, before the umbilical cord is cut, allowed to do the belly crawl and latch on for first feeding, has this switch turned off in various degrees of severity depending upon the level of reinforcement post that. And that is what creates that switch being turned off. If an infant is in threat in utero, gets born, and doesn't allow the connection to their biological mother before the umbilical cord is cut, and that security of feeding and all the processes of bonding that happen immediately post-birth, when you remove that, it will forever alter the child's development and their relationships and interactions and the person that they ultimately become. We see that play out in the Western world in particular because everything in maternity wards is running to a schedule, and 9 times out of 10 infants are not allowed to do the belly crawl and latch on. It doesn't match the time frame of doctors and nurses and the allotted expenses and so forth and so forth. Babies are removed, cleaned up, brought back several hours later, sometimes days later, or if there's medical interventions, it could be months. That gap, that disruption of that neurophysiological bond and connection to their mother immediately post-birth is why so many people in this world cannot participate in love. They can give it, they can receive it. But it is a constant act of giving and receiving. And that act of giving and receiving requires a little bit more each time. It needs more evidence that it is there. It needs more evidence that it is present. It needs more evidence that it is real. And cynicism and desensitization and all those components that come with it come into the relationships and interactions we have as the years go by. And I see these all the time. But when you look at adoption and the other layers that are placed on it, it adds another complexity that makes this whole point of connection post-birth even more and more visible. Because through adoption, and this is one of the unique aspects that adoption has over foster care, is the purpose of adoption is to create a manufactured connection to non-biological parents at a very young age. The majority of the time it's at a very, very young age. And that process of connection does not resolve the participation in love. It does not resolve that connection. It tries to mask it, it tries to paint over it, and it tries to diminish its effects or even diminish its importance. But it does not resolve it. So what that shows me, that when you are trying to heal this ultimate connection to belonging and being part of community and family and so forth, when you're trying to actually heal attachment trauma, words and removal, creating artificial environments, none of that stuff will ever work. It has to be real. For it to be real means we have to co-regulate with other nervous systems. We have to create very real connections. And that takes being taught how. Within older world cultures, there are methods and pathways and different processes that can enact that. I won't name them here because they are so easily taken out of context. But I will mention them to individuals if in conversation I feel that they will be received in the way that they need to be. But it takes physical interaction to heal physical connection. It cannot be done cognitively. It cannot be done through counseling and talking therapies, reading books, none of this stuff. It can only happen through actively participating in connection. And the types of connections that we need to heal are the ones that emulate the structures of a community and family. Now we see the negative side of this and how it plays out with the associations on the more extreme side of these things when you're looking at gangs and those groups of people that come together in a survival methodology that protect themselves through harming others. But we don't often see it in the positive. Now, if you start to look at older world cultures, we start to see that they do exist. When you look at, I won't even go down the indigenous communities, right? I'll go down, if you go in the old world in Europe, there are communities and villages that heal their community through the participation in meals and everything that they do when they come together. That social family structure, that protocol of how to be part of that community, the protocol of family, of men and women and respecting elders, and all this structure and stuff, everything that Western society tries to dismantle, everything that this woke society, thinking that it's good, are trying to dismantle. And I'm not going to get into the woke politics, but that process of dismantling the structure that we are neurophysiologically designed to be part of each person having their defined roles, that is how we heal to participate in love. Otherwise, we will give and receive, give and receive, give and receive. And for a lot of people, that may be enough. But for me and what I witness around me, in that giving, as I said, in that giving and receiving, it requires ever-increasing amounts of proof that it is there. And we need ever-increasing amounts of proof that, well, I'm giving all of this, what are you giving me? Is the reciprocation enough? Is it equivalent? And this is why we have the dysfunctionality, we have the divorce rates that are as high, and everything else that we see around us comes from a part of this base. And all the search for identity and everything that we have in regards to gender identity, everything we have in our society today comes from this base of trying to find a way to participate in love. Because as we learn, the giving and receiving doesn't work long term. The only way is to find a way that truly emulates the physical bonding to our biological mother post-birth and the security she feels from our biological father when he becomes present in that room. That is what we basically have to replicate in some form, to that degree and depth, to heal that connection, to heal the ability to participate in love. And as I said, it can happen. I have seen it happen. I personally haven't experienced it, but I know others that do. And I constantly get reminded in interactions and conversations as to why this is so important. Now, I hope this video makes sense and is valued, and I really do hope that it is taken in the context that I've said it in and I've spoken it in. But I do want it understood that there is a fundamental difference between giving and receiving love and participating in it. I love you guys' comments and feedback. Please be mindful, please be safe, and I'll see you all next time.